Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in again today. And so today I want to talk to you all about history and civics and politics a little bit, I guess. I speak a lot about STEAM and because that's our focus. But as you know, I also throughout the days communicate with others, working on finding out how to be the best possible resource for our young people. And in doing so, I had a long, in-depth conversation about history and the importance of us knowing history. Because of my experience in life, and one of my undergraduate degree was in political science, and I started working on political campaigns at 15 years old. I tell people all the time, the candidate that I work with was in politics ever since then, and she just retired this past session. And so I say all this to say, not to go into politics or anything, but in order for me to understand how our government works, how our economy works, how all of that interrelates with how economics work throughout the globe, it was very, very important for me to have a lot of these perspectives, because oftentimes we think of the economy and we attach it to the president, which we really shouldn't be attaching it to the president, but we also do something else. We assume that it's this bubble, like it's a bubble that we kind of navigate and control. We do understand that others outside of our country have something to do with it, but it's almost like, okay, the government controls it and there's all those things. Yes, the government has some influence, but they do not control economies, right? We have influence with tariffs, we have influence with taxation, we have influence on many different levels, right? And with regards to investment vehicles and so on and so forth. However, I think it's really, really important for our young people to understand how even in history, the ability to learn science and technology and engineering, arts, and math is also influenced by all of these structures. And even though when we talk about history, normally we'll talk about an inventor, and we'll talk about how societal norms influence things, and how scientists had to go against the grain to create new technologies and to build out systems and so on and so forth. But it's really, really important that when we're having that dialogue with our young people, whether it be through homeschooling or through your enrichment programs, it's important to have the dialogue about how these things interrelate. And even if you feel like you're not as well versed, I would say as a parent, one of the most beautiful things that I have had to accept was that I have a vast level of knowledge, but in order to be a great educator for my son, I had to accept the things that I didn't know and be grateful for my opportunity to relearn many of these things that long ago left my mind, because I felt like, oh, this doesn't have any relevance in my day to day. And that's what has happened to our young people. And it definitely happened to you, right? Raise your hand on that one. And it's happened to all of us. We felt like we went to school, we learned this subject matter, and it didn't really have relevance to what we were doing and where we were going and so on and so forth. So we kind of like got rid of that area and stuffed it back in the back of our minds. But what's important is that we undo that perspective and start having the dialogue with our young people about how our societal norms, how our politics, how our historical experiences influence every aspect of how the world and everything plays out in the world of science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. In science, we know that there were times when, if you went against the grain, you were a heretic and you needed to be stoned or burned at the stake. And that plays a very important role in our understanding of today um, when new ideas are presented. How are those new ideas received? I remember studying a little bit. I need to study more. I've got all the books. I need to spend more time openly admitting this. Transparency, full transparency. Dr. Bruce Lipton, he founded the field of epigenetics way, way, way before it became common knowledge. And now there are all of these professors and researchers that are supporting an idea and a theory that has proven itself time and time again, but it took decades before it could ever be brought to the fore. Whereas he, pioneered this many, many years ago, I was pretty much told, get out of here with this, right? And that's what happens. And so one of the things that I would love for us to do with our young people is remind them of such. Remind them that their brilliance may not always be well received. And everyone may not necessarily support their ideas. Do it anyway. Go for it anyway. Because as I've shared yesterday and many times before, the careers of the future have not been created yet. And it is brilliant young people like your children that are going to come up with these exceptional ideas that literally change the trajectory of the world. And so I offer up the idea of multidisciplinary learning, right? We want to make sure that we're not living in silos, like, oh, I'm a mathematician and all I do is focus on mathematics. Because there's a whole other world. Obviously, I call it the universal language, but it influences everything else. And so I just wanted to come here today and talk about that, because I know it's weird, like, oh, she's talking about history and politics. No, I'm actually talking about how it truly relates to science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Art of the past. Some of it wasn't accepted at first. Some of it was considered not so good. That's why many artists die broke. But obviously my goal is to change that so that our young people are flourishing in their artistic expression. And the world of NFTs is showing that there's an opportunity there bigger than previously known. And we'll talk about that, especially if you're joining the summit. So that's how I'm going to close. Make sure to sign up for the Boundless Kiddo Summit today. It's free. Obviously, we would love for you to get the packages, because the packages make total sense for your kiddos. It's very affordable. And for what you get in transforming your children's lives, it's priceless, actually. And so with that, I will check in with you again tomorrow. I look forward to it. And I hope that you guys are sucking up all of these insights and turning them into actionable items for your young people so that they may thrive. And with that, I will say, I bid you adieu. Bye-bye now.